All right, can you hear me? All right, welcome everybody to the first class in the Glassroots Educational Project. I'm Tito Bern, I'll be your host for the next 90 minutes. And so everybody now just sit back, but don't relax. We're gonna talk about some serious shit. How many of you out there know what Operation Pipe Dreams is? I'm curious. All right, about half of you. All right. Now, since it's an educational project, I did bring the actual Department of Justice papers. I think before we get to the interviews and hear everybody's story, I want you to hear the actual facts from the government. So, Shelbo, if you wouldn't mind reading us those facts, please.
Attorney General John Ashcroft and U.S. Attorney Mary Beth Buchanan of Western District of Pennsylvania today announced the indictment of 27 individuals on charges of trafficking in illegal drug paraphernalia. The charges, contained in 17 separate indictments, are the culmination of a nationwide investigation codenamed Operation Pipe Dreams, and include 10 indictments against national distributors of drug paraphernalia and 7 indictments involving businesses located in Western Pennsylvania.
And now, also, I want to interject there real quick because there's something really important to realize. So, the 55 people that were indicted were actually charged on 3 different counts. They were charged with conspiracy to manufacture and distribute drug paraphernalia, intent to manufacture and distribute drug paraphernalia, and actually manufacturing and distributing drug paraphernalia. So in other words, they thought about it, they tried to do it, and they did it. And they charged them on all 3 counts.
Today, the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force has taken decisive steps to dismantle the illegal drug paraphernalia industry by attacking their physical, financial, and internet infrastructures. The defendants have been charged with conspiracy to sell and offering to sell various types of drug paraphernalia. Federal law defines drug paraphernalia as those products that are primarily intended or designed to be used in ingesting, inhaling, or otherwise using controlled substances and include user-friendly and dealer-friendly devices.
Okay, so now, how many of you think that it's federally legal to make glass pipes and ship them to another state today? You're wrong. You're all outlaws, every one of you. But isn't that what we love?
U.S. Attorney Buchanan said, "Those who sell drug paraphernalia are not only violating federal law, they are supporting a culture of illegal drug use. Drug users, in turn, by creating demand for heroin, cocaine, and marijuana, and other illicit substances, are responsible for the violence and huge profits which accompany drug dealing in our cities and communities."
Thank you, Shelbo. Everybody, our announcer, Shelbo. Thank you. All right, so now we are going to hear some stories. We're going to bring up some key people, interview them. We'll hear their stories, and we'll hear what it was like to be a pipe maker during Operation Pipe Dreams when this went down. And at the end of each interview, we will do a Q&A, so when you have questions, make sure you save them, and you'll have a chance to ask these guys some questions. Shelbo, would you please introduce our first guest?
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the pillars of our community, founder of the Flow magazine, and an all-around amazing guy, Will Menzies.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, you have this mic. All right, excellent. Oh, that thing's ringing a bit. What do we do here?
Mic check, yeah.
All right, so Will, you've been in this game almost longer than anybody. So how did you start making pipes? How'd that begin?
I was at a Jerry Garcia birthday party in Kent, Ohio. And there was a guy out there doing demos, and I was just attracted to it, you know, for some reason. I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I asked him, like, how a person would go about learning, and he said, Bob Snodgrass, Eugene, Oregon. So I moved to Oregon.
That's interesting. And then Now,
Yeah.
you had an interesting job before you made pipes. Tell us about that.
Which one?
You were a fiber optic engineer.
Fiber optic engineer, yeah. So that's how I got moved out there was, I told my job that I needed a job on the West Coast so I wouldn't have to pay to move out there.
And how did you end up from being a fiber optic engineer to sitting in Snodgrass's studio?
I quit my fiber optic engineer job.
That must have been scary. That must have been scary.
No. I was single. I didn't have any kids. I had a dog. That was it. So yeah. It was fun.
And you lived in Texas when you did that?
Oh, well, I was in Ohio.
Ohio.
And I mean, based out of Texas, but the fiber optic engineer job took me all over the country.
Okay.
So yeah, I ended up getting a job actually in Washington,
Okay.
doing fiber around Lake Bellevue. And once I got moved down there, and Bob had agreed to put me on, and I quit.
So,
Yeah.
now, when pipe dreams happened, how established were you? I mean, were you just a glass blower in your garage, or had you already established the flow and all of your great projects that you've done? Where were you at that time when that happened? How established were you?
Kind of established, but not really. We put out one issue of the magazine, which was November before pipe dreams. And it was myself, my wife, and my brother. And we had a company called Texas Blown, which we were making products and distributing products throughout Texas. And
In case anybody doesn't know, Will Menzies is the publisher of the Flow magazine. He has single-handedly started that and kept that going all these years.
no. My wife and I single-handedly is no.
Well, I consider
Jennifer, you
them. I
get
consider them
props.
one person, I guess. but-
Yeah. My wife was super instrumental in it. So yeah.
So when you first started, was there a point where you were like, oh shit, I should go back to fiber optics?
No, there was a point where I was like, oh shit, I got to do something besides just making pipes, and that's when we started the Flow. It was when my wife got pregnant, and that was the oh shit part. That was like, I got to diversify, and I got to do some other things.
Yeah, you gotta make a reel at that point.
Got to make some real things happen here besides just sitting out in the garage pushing bowls.
And now let's get down to the actual day. So here we are. It's Operation Pipe Dreams. How did you find out? It happened at 6 in the morning. When did you find out?
Yeah, at 5 o'clock.
Oh,
5
shit,
o'clock
all right.
Texas time. Yeah. I got a text, or my wife got a text because I didn't have a cell phone at the time, from one of our best friends who was also our kind of angel investor in the Flow. So our largest customer, he had 5 smoke shops in Dallas-Fort Worth, and he was also a printer. So we were able to actually trade cases of pipes for the first Flow magazine. Like we literally took about $6 grand worth of pipes, laid them out in his living room, and we picked up the first issue of the Flow.
Beautiful, beautiful. And okay, so you find out it's February 24th, 2003. It happened. You find out at 5 in the morning. What was the rest of that day like?
Fucked. Really, I mean, we were not prepared to pay cash for the second issue, and the second issue was coming out of print, and our guy that we were trading pipes to for the magazine was gone. He was in jail. Like, they literally cracked his door down at 5 o'clock in the morning in a residential neighborhood, 27 cop cars for one of the kindest men I've ever known. Still, to this day, one of the kindest men I've ever known, and just wrecked his life.
It's actually, I wanted to interject real quick just on some statistics about that day, just to make you realize how crazy this was. This is right after 9/11, right? You figure America's got some important shit to deal with, right? The government spent $12 million and 2,000 officers to make this happen. Just to put that in perspective for you.
The Attorney General also announced the return of 4 indictments in the Southern District of Iowa against national distributors of drug paraphernalia in Michigan, California, and Texas as a result of Operation Headhunter.
Right.
In those indictments, U.S. State's Attorney in Southern Iowa, Stephen M. Colleton, charged 4 corporations and 9 individuals with conspiring to sell and selling illegal drug paraphernalia in the Southern District of Iowa. They said, people selling drug paraphernalia are in essence no different than drug dealers. That was John Brown, acting administrator of the DEA. They are as much of a part of drug trafficking as silencers are a part of criminal homicide. These criminals operate in multi-million-dollar enterprise, selling their paraphernalia in head shops, distributing out of huge warehouses, and using the World Wide Web as a worldwide paraphernalia market. With Operation Pipe Dreams and Headhunter, these criminals are out of business, and 11 illicit.coms are gone. That's one of their famous quotes.
Oh man, and you know how long was, if you could see that motherfucker behind his podium saying that line, you know, he was waiting to use that line forever. He was just creaming. It was so corny and awful, and it was bad.
They got
Including
fortune
other...
cookie writers looking up for lines for him.
That was Ashcroft, right?
No, that was John Brown who
That was
actually
John
said
Brown.
that, yeah.
Including other regional takedowns, a total of 35 indictments were issued, charging 55 persons nationwide. Federal law provides for a maximum total sentence of 3 years in prison, a fine of $250,000 or both, with respect to each count set forth in the indictment.
I remember what I said earlier, so that was on each count, the intent, the conspiracy, and the actual doing it. And so Will, so then you find out the day's fucked. What happened on February 25th? You never stopped making pipes.
No, hustle. Hustle's what happened. It happened February 24th, you know. First of all, we started calling the shops. We found out that everyone that we dealt with was shut down. Some of them never reopened because of the impact.
I remember this day very well, and it was super trippy to just see. I mean, almost every pipe store in the country wasn't open that day.
It was not open.
Something else.
Yeah.
All right, and now tell us about the flow. So you had one issue of the flow had already come out,
Right, first
and so that second issue, what was that like?
Scrambling, you know. I mean, I'm broke. My wife's pregnant. I lost all my distributors, all my shops. I had no way of making money the way that I was making money. So I was making tools, glass blowing tools at the time, and I had a huge stock of glass blowing tools. So I called up Susan Webb over at Glass Alchemy and explained to her the situation. And of course, she was in just as bad a spot as everybody else, because if the glass blowers can't sell pipes to the shops, then we can't afford to buy the color from Glass Alchemy. So it's not like she was much better off. But she did buy a huge pile of my tools to help us be able to pay for the second issue. So we did get the second issue paid for by selling her a whole bunch of paddles and ringers and stuff like that.
Yeah. And you kept it alive. It's beautiful.
Kept it alive, yeah.
And how did you actually sell your work after that? You're a road dog. You're not afraid to get out there and hit that road.
Still do.
Yeah. So that's what you
absolutely.
did. Just got back right on the road.
Well, but
Got right back to it.
There was nobody to go to on the road.
So how long till you felt like you could get back to that?
Well, I went straight to my guys that sold weight,
Right.
and I started hooking them up with pieces. And so they would have pieces. When somebody came over there to score some herb from them, then they pretty much had this little head shop.
Underground.
Right, yeah. We did that, and then we also had Tupperware parties. So, like, our herb guy would, like, you know, gather up his people, and we would just have, like, a little wine and cheese thing over at his house, and we'd bring all our pieces, and I'd give him a cut off of it, and we had Tupperware parties.
Did you call them pufferware parties?
Tupperware parties, yeah. That's it.
And, so I want to make another link, too, that some people might not realize that was absolutely crazy to me. So John Ashcroft also made the link saying that if you're a glass pipe maker, if you're buying glass pipes, that you're helping terrorism. That was something else. He said that right out loud to everybody, and that shocked me. What do you think about that? You helping terrorists with your glass pipes?
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, we're trying to bring peace to the world, you know.
Of course. Well, one other question too I had. Also, you might not know this, but Will was the inventor of the Helix design, which is huge. It's super popular. Had you invented that before this or after that?
No, after.
that was after,
He
too.
was until 2007.
All right, everybody. Will Menzies, thank you for telling your story.
Is that good?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring up our next guest, Grateful Jay.
What happened to try coming out
The mic on the seat.
Oh.
It's the mic on the seat.
All right, so everybody.
Jay, just get the mic facing this way and then get it close to your mouth.
So we're super honored to have a very important guest today. Is that me or is that?
I moved over here.
Oh, yeah, Raj. Your mic is
Sorry, buddy, a little technical issues.
We can just talk. Y'all can hear us.
All right, anyway, so we're super lucky here to have Grateful Jay. He owns retail stores in Florida, and this guy's been in it for forever. He's definitely got a good story to tell, and I did think it was important to have a store owner's perspective for this, because look, you guys are all glass blowers. You know, you got to go sell your work. This is a guy you would, you know, come in and open your case for and try to sell him some glass. So I wanted to hear what his experience was during this day.
Well, his hustle's from both sides because he's a glass
I
blower
also blow glass, yeah.
As a glass blower, so you can hit it from every angle.
Yeah, this ain't working.
So,
Okay.
there you go.
There we go.
So, Jay, when did you open your first store?
94. December 1994.
Oh shit, that all. And did you feel pipe dreams coming? Like, did you feel something was going to happen beforehand?
You always have that feeling that you are breaking the law. Selling what people say. We know the federal law. Don't say bong. Don't ever say pot or weed or. So you keep very strict guidelines. But yeah, you always have that feeling.
Yeah.
I have that feeling today.
Yeah, and Jay's also done a ton of amazing work in Florida to keep that scene together. He went around and united all the Florida shop owners, or at least the smart ones, and you know, so he's a very important guy here. Now, bring us to that day. So what happened? How'd you find out? How did it all go down?
I had 2 stores at the time. My studio was in my Boca store. Boca was open for about a year, maybe a year and a half, and Margate was open for 10 years at that point. And I got a call, Customs is here. Okay, what do they want?
So it was customs, not feds or local.
It was
cops?
ICE.
Oh,
It was
wow,
ICE.
wow, okay.
So I said, okay, let me come to the store. Called the lawyer immediately, and the lawyer said, don't go to the store. I'll meet you at the store. And met him there. I stayed outside. Lawyer went inside, asked what was going on. They said, we're confiscating merchandise to be used as evidence in an investigation.
Okay, so ICE comes in. Did they actually take your glass?
$65,000 worth.
Holy shit! Can you imagine that? And
That was a lot of money at that time.
did you have just everything invested in this? I mean, this was all you.
I had $30,000. It was 12 days before Christmas. I had $30,000 worth of merchandise that I hadn't even paid for yet.
Wow.
I made deals with the vendors to pay after the new year.
So I'll tell you what, as a store owner myself, that's some scary shit.
Yeah.
Now, what did you do the next day? So you closed the store that day. You met with the lawyer.
No, we stayed open.
Oh, you stayed open.
We stayed
okay,
open.
that's brave.
We were
Brave.
like,
Round of
okay.
applause for that.
Okay. Yeah, it was basically as soon
fuck
as you know, can you guys hurry up? Well, it's 12 days before Christmas. I had other shit to sell.
Hell yeah.
So went to the lawyers the next day.
Yeah.
And said I want my shit back. And he said, okay, let's go downstairs and see. We went to the law library. You know what, Jay? It's not that bad. Well, first we called to find out what it was, and what the customs said was, we're not charging anyone with a crime. We're not saying you're doing anything illegal, but if you want your stuff back, go to court and prove you didn't. And I looked at him and went, that's kind of opposite what the Constitution says, but okay. And I said to my lawyer, I want my shit back, and he said, let's go find out why they did it. Looking for money leading back to terrorism post 9/11. Okay. There was not a whole lot of import glass that we'd be sending our money over to terrorists. And he said, he's reading the books and he's shaking his head. He's like, it's not that bad. Worst thing they can charge you with, if they convict you, worst thing they can do is give you 90 days. I was like, okay, let's fight. He says, how many things did they take? I said, I don't know, about 4,000 pieces of merchandise total, including parts and everything. He says, well, if a judge wants to be a dick, he'll give you 90 days, 4,000 times in a row. And I was like, that's not that good.
No, that's not.
He said, these guys just illegally invaded a country, and who the fuck do you think you are that you're going to fight them?
Yeah. Holy shit.
He said, go back to work, open the stores. We sold our merchandise. It's not working. What we did is we took plastic tops. We took our bowls, we put them to the top of the pipes, we put long down stems in them, and where the bowls normally go, we put hoses and turned every water pipe into a hookah, because that's all they left. and they did leave me one Jock Creations piece that I had for a long time. The girl said, please don't take it, it's been here longer than me. And they left it. They took all the hookahs and put them in front of that one
Oh, they
piece.
left you one as a consolation
Yeah,
prize.
uh-huh.
All right.
And a couple of years later, they called me and said, if you'd like, you can come and watch us destroy all your product.
Holy shit.
A couple of years later?
A couple of years later, I did get a call from the head ICE guy, and he said, you know, the investigation's over. Go back to doing business normally.
Wow. And so did you get any of it back?
Nothing.
Wow.
Not one piece.
And they actually just destroyed the whole thing and invited you to watch it.
So they say. I did not go to watch.
Just out of curiosity, did you have a plan B? Like if everything went down and that was the end of it, like what were you gonna do?
I actually did have a plan B. I went and sold mortgages.
Oh no, not too bad.
And I found out how crooked that part of our world was going at the time. When they started taking advantage of people with the mortgages, I was like, I can't do this. I'm going back to making pipes.
Fuck, we got some bad timing.
Yeah.
All right.
So how long before you felt comfortable in business again, like you could run it?
I still don't. I still don't.
The federal law that all this stemmed off of has not been changed or augmented. It is still in place and just as viable as it was
Right.
during pipe dreams.
And in Florida, we have actually fought the state twice. They implemented a law that says that no more than 75% of my gross money can come, no more than 25% of my gross money can come from sale of pipes. But the way they wrote the law, they can't even enforce the law. So our government's kind of wacky on every level. And then 2 years later, this guy who got that law passed decided, fuck it, I'm just going to ban all pipes in Florida. And that's when we brought everyone together as a community as far as retailers go. And we fought, we won. We do have the bong law in Florida, but we kind of did a reversal on the federal law. If somebody comes into your store in Florida, unless you say, put the pot here, they can call it whatever they want. They can call it a bong, they can say they're smoking weed out of it, it doesn't matter. Until you tell them how to use it illegally, you're not breaking the law. But we don't use that law, we still follow federal law. You can't say bong, you can't say weed, but on the state level, it makes it very hard for us to get prosecuted as store owners or people behind our counters. I don't work behind the counters anymore. So it's a fine line. And then, like our industry typically is, as soon as we've had a lobbyist on payroll, we had a lobbyist on payroll for 4 years, and we ran out of money. It was 2 years of fighting it, and as soon as there weren't any issues, nobody wanted to pay to be a part of the organization anymore. Florida Smoke Shop Association could have had legal pot in Florida 2 years ago, but people don't want to put money up when it comes to a lot of things.
It'll happen. Now, you know, most of the glass blowers in the crowd here. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like? You know, when the average local pipe maker comes in to sell you glass, you know, and walks in, open your case, hopefully buys something, right? How did that change? Like, you know, what happened right afterwards? Was it easier to get these pipes? Was it harder? Was it more available? Less available? What was that like?
Yeah, the young people that were doing it, it didn't really affect them. They still continued to come. Vendors called me immediately and said, what do you need? We need you to have a Christmas.
Yeah.
I brought product in right away.
Now, for me, I noticed that right afterwards, store owners were petrified to buy headies. You know, anything over $150 seemed to be really, really difficult because, you know, all the store owners were afraid of getting their product seized, just the way Jay did, anytime after that. So I know I had a really hard time moving headies right after that. Were you intimidated to buy expensive pieces for that reason? Or?
Back then, we really didn't do a lot of headies.
Yeah.
It was more production stuff and, you know, guys who came through selling their stuff.
It was way more devolved back then than it is now. So.
Yeah. So no, we didn't really have a problem. It was just a question of, okay, do we keep $70,000 worth of inventory? We didn't keep more than $4,000 worth of inventory at a time.
Okay.
And in 2005, 4 months later in April, they came and they raided my Boca store.
Wow.
But when they needed 7 vans for the first bust, So they brought 7 bands for the second bus, and they could have built a truck up a car.
Yeah.
That was the difference of what we carried.
But you made it through, and I'm real proud of you, and I think you're a real important guy to everybody. And so thank you to Grateful Jay, everybody. What a great guest.
Quick question for Jay.
Jeremy
Yeah.
had a question too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot all about the Q&A. Look at me.
We'll do more Q&A at the end, but specifically for Jay,
Yeah.
Jerm wanted to know if the trauma that you mentioned was something that has affected things all the way to how business is conducted today.
Yeah, the trauma that you still live with, and will too, from that event, from Pipe Dreams, does that inform how you do business today? And has it helped, or has it held you back?
It doesn't hold me back. I'm not afraid of the government. I mean, I'm afraid of what they can do to me, but I'm not afraid of them. So, and in Florida, we're pretty much like the front runners of how business is done. Like you walk into any store that's less than 10 years old, it looks like a Grateful Jay's. We are copied. And the people who work for me are also young. They have no clue. I have one person who's been with me that whole time. She never left. She's still with me 20 years. Michelle, my manager that a lot of people know, she was after that. She didn't go through it. My mother told me I turned into an asshole after this shit happened. But as far as business goes, I don't let anyone stop me. When the state of Florida decided that they were going to fuck with us, I called every store owner I could get a phone number for. I called my vendors and said, let your store owners know this is going to go down, and we need to pull together to stop them. And everybody's like, oh, I want to be on that list. I'm like, you fuckers are already on the list. That's why they're doing it. Then, well, I don't need them looking at my taxes. Okay, so you're in a gray area business and you're not paying taxes? Like, you people are just stupid. But yeah, it affected me personally more than it affected me. I became tougher at my business then, and I turned into an asshole as a person. But whatever.
So, as someone who went through all this, what advice would you give to newer shop owners who didn't have to live through that?
Do your homework. If you don't know what's happened, you don't know what's coming again. This has been happening since the 60s. The government comes in, and obviously the manufacturers got hit different than we did. As store owners, they just come in and screw with us. They take our shit. They don't usually put people in jail unless they have a reason to. And I would suggest you don't go home and dab and put it on Instagram and Snapchat and all that stupid shit that I see going on today. We're in a gray business. The government says they don't like us. We're the easy target, okay, when the government needs to look busy. Okay, it's like, let's get everybody's head. Obviously, Pipe Dreams started before 9/11 happened, because it takes a year for them to do an investigation and bring it down. So it was a good distraction for the country at the time when it happened. It's, oh, they're going to get rid of all the stuff. They're never getting rid of the potheads. They're never getting rid of the pot. They're never getting rid of the stores. My attitude was, take my store away. I'm a glass blower. I can go and unroll a blanket on the beach and put pipes on it and give out my phone number. If I get busted, I'm going to get busted for selling one pipe. Big deal. But people are too complacent in this industry, especially store owners.
And it can happen again. Like, I'm not saying
It will happen again.
Yeah, right.
But to some degree, it will happen again.
And I think
Especially with everything that's going on with the legalization. Okay, the stores are the front lines. We make news. When they bust a grow house, it's not that big a deal. Oh, it's another grow house. But when they bust 1,000 stores across the country at one time, it's a big deal. Okay, and everybody sees it. When we were fighting in the state of Florida, the two politicians who wrote the law, I invited one of them to come and sit. They need to protect the children. No matter what it is in this country, we've got to protect the children. When it comes down to, you tell a politician, my average customer is older than you, okay? My average customer is not 18, my average customer is 45, okay?
I was always going to be a glass blower anyway. I just didn't know it was going to be pipes.
Right, so you feel like it kind of chose you?
Yeah, it really did.
Definitely. And it's kind of random. What did your parents think of you making pipes when you started?
Oh, it was a non-issue.
They didn't care. Yeah. And so now, as we're approaching Pipe Dreams, the day's coming. How did you find out? Walk us through that day. How did that work for you?
Well, I wasn't like particularly destroyed by pipe dreams or anything like that. So I really just have an anecdotal story.
But it's important for you to see what a glass blower, just as
Yeah.
many of yourselves were at that age. What the experience was. So, like, about what time of day did you find out? Like, how did you find out? Who told you?
Well, I don't recall what time of day it was, but there I am working away. I was knee-deep in my first venture of having a bong shop and a brand name, a couple guys working for me and stuff, and I just get a phone call out of the blue, like, oh, you won't believe it, so-and-so's getting busted right now. And while I'm on that call waiting, somebody else, other side of the country, you're not going to believe it, so-and-so's getting busted right now. And while I'm on that call, another, and like half a dozen calls stacked up all at the same moment from people all over the country getting busted.
Wow.
And my shop was maybe like half a mile from JVD on the same road. So I go outside and there is just a stream of like Fed vehicles going down the road. And we have no idea like what's going on or why. I'm like, oh shit guys, get everything dirty out of the shop right now. We spend like half an hour, we get every dirty bong and every scrap of weed and everything out of the building now. We don't know what's happening. Like maybe they're coming for all of us.
That's funny. That's exactly how I felt. I remember, I was just in a small shop with my little group of friends, and at the end of the day, same thing. We hit every pipe, no weed, no nothing. Nobody knew. I'm sitting out in the woods in Vermont, literally, and I legitimately thought that somebody was coming to my garage to come bust us. Like it was a really weird day.
It felt like they were coming.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And so how established were you? You started talking a minute there. So you had a shop, you had a couple guys working for you already. You were quite established?
I was just getting established. I had this awesome product called the G-Bub. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember that shit.
I did.
But it was pretty good. But yeah, I'd just done the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam, took silver medal on it, got lots of publicity. Business was gonna happen. It was so happening.
So if they were coming for more people, they're probably coming for you.
They're coming for us. Yeah.
And you can imagine too. Remember earlier I was saying 2,000 officers to indict 55 people. So when he talks about Jason Harris's, Jerome Baker's property, I mean the way Jason explained it, I mean it was cops and military and the whole 9 yards.
It was crazy. It was on my street, so I'm standing outside watching it just for hours. Black SUVs and it was scary. It was scary stuff.
That's crazy.
And then there was a CTA show immediately after, which I attended.
Yeah.
One of the very few people who attended that show.
And now, we talked to Jay a little bit about buying glass before and after this. How was it for you selling glass? Did you find it was tougher to sell headies? How was it selling your glass?
Oh, it was impossible to sell a pipe or a bong afterward. Everybody was so scared. And my memory's pretty spotty on it, but if I recall, it was quite some time before anyone even knew why this happened or what the risks were. So we all felt like we were at risk for, maybe months afterward. Nobody would buy any glass.
And Ham, do you think something like this could happen again?
Well, everyone who went through it and who was there to see it lived in fear of a repeat for a long time. And then all the newcomers to the scene who missed that didn't have that same scare on them. So things were different. And it's really only these last few years that I've really started feeling like we don't have to worry about it anymore, because the internet scene is so big these days that, why are they going to pick me?
Right.
Only a few years ago was I willing to put my bongs up on a website. I still don't have a shopping cart. I want to be able to verify every customer.
Right.
But so I still live with the scare a little bit.
Yeah. No, the biggest thing, the one huge difference in pipe makers between back then and now is social media and pipe makers being able to sell their work direct. Everybody's getting real loose with that. It's if you're doing that and sending that shop to another state, you are definitely breaking the law, and that's exactly what they were coming for.
Well, and I'm in Oregon, and we have legal weed now, age 21. So these days, I sell weed bongs to age 21.
No, it's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing.
So now, do you guys, anybody have questions for Ham? Let's open it up to the floor. You got anybody here for the great Ham?
We will have a Q&A at the end of the session as well, but just
Kat from Philly, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Hello!
What's your question?
My question is to either of you, if you'd care to speak on it. You know, you said you live in Oregon, things are legal now, so you're in this amazing zone, but federally, the law still stands if you were going to send things over state lines. I guess it's a two-part question. One, do you know of any sort of activism or legislation that's pushing towards legalizing paraphernalia as well as marijuana, especially in the legal states? And two, has it affected your business only being able to do it locally as opposed to nationally, especially because the internet is such a useful tool for businesses?
Well, for myself, I'm a manufacturer and wholesaler, so I don't generally deal with the public or the final consumer at all. So when I ship a box out, I'm shipping to a retailer. So they really take on all of the risk involved with selling in their locality, and I don't really feel that risk directly. But in my home state and the little bit of direct sales I do, I just stick to an age 21. As far as legalizing the paraphernalia, I think that really follows the legalization of the drug itself. So I think the one just naturally follows the other. When we have national legal pot, all the paraphernalia will just automatically be legal.
How problematic will it be, Jay? Yeah, so Jay's there with you, and I'm just going to say, how problematic is it now that the gray area got blurred and there's pieces being sold for use as tobacco products, and they're specifically in shops that have tobacco permits, and that's what they have to do, but then in legal states, sometimes the same pieces are available as weed bongs, and how do you define, what's the future of that?
It's really hard to...
Yeah, I'd like to hear your take on this.
It's really hard to... we have a website. I actually have two websites. One is not a Grateful J's related website at all. I can't make 2 cents on either one of them, so it doesn't really matter. But I think there's 2 or 3 states that you cannot ship to at all, which we don't.
What states?
I don't know. I don't do the website stuff.
It pretty much, I think it's Pennsylvania and Iowa are kind of the 2 states. Well, that's where pipe dreams happened. It happened in Pennsylvania and Iowa. So,
yeah.
how are you guys? I might, avoid those 2. And South Dakota. Oh, well, we're all missing the party in South Dakota, I guess.
I think there's 4. So we don't ship to those 4 states. Not that we have that many sales to actually judge with, but I think the government will leave that as their ace to pull and say, well, we never did legalize paraphernalia. Yeah, your state may say it's okay to sell pot. I can get... There's so much stuff going on in the pot industry coming through that I don't think they're looking at it. They've been told don't bother the states where the state decides. Well, paraphernalia is never mentioned. Pipes are never mentioned. That could be the ace in the hole for the government at some point. Like, let's stir it up again. Okay, and that'll keep all the pot people that are shipping stuff. I can get stuff in Florida from Oregon, California, Washington, D.C.
Yeah, keep in mind.
All the packaged products are all in Florida. So once they start busting people, I don't know. It's always in the back of your head, who's going down? Somebody's going to go down at some point. That's just the nature of the business that we're in.
Did you feel that when Headhunter and Pipe Dreams went down, that the people, including yourself, who were affected directly by it, were sticking their neck out, so to speak, and allowing the government to get a chop? Or do you think that it was 100% blindside?
It was 100% blindside. Everybody who got hit. Like, there was no mention of the stores. That was the discussion we started to have last night.
In your idea that there might be someone next, you have to be ultra cautious. At the moment when you were one of the next, was there any way to predict or indicate that something was happening, or that any of the people that were affected were being watched, or in any way?
It was probably done with tax returns. All right, who's making money? Because there were stores up the street from me that didn't get hit. And they didn't hit my second store until 4 months later. So that's their way of saying, we're still watching you.
For Operation Headhunter, the DEA resident office in Des Moines, Iowa, initiated an investigation into the sale and distribution of drug paraphernalia at head shops in southern Iowa in January of 2000, okay? So federal search warrants executed at 4 such businesses in Iowa resulted in the seizure of more than $2 million in drug paraphernalia, and the searches also implicated various national distributors, including 4 companies that were also indicted that day.
Okay. Your point?
Just the facts. But you know,
money. No, you brought up money. They're watching money. They wanted to tell everyone that they collected $2 million in drug paraphernalia. So they're very interested in always talking about who's making money, what this stuff is worth, whether or not they're getting tax dollars on it. All that is directly connected to what you said about they're paying attention to who's making money, whether they're paying their taxes properly, and if you're giving them red flags.
Right.
And you know what else? There's one more thing too. Government doesn't like to see us having so much fun. You know, I saw, through my research in this thing, I realized how politically motivated this thing was. I read multiple times that during actual depositions, people were commenting to Tommy Chong that this was almost like some kind of revenge for him and his movies, and what he had done, and he had glamorized the pot-smoking lifestyle, even though nothing seems too glamorizing about Cheech and Chong, but that's how they saw it. And so in this very crazy political year we got coming up, I mean, it's good timing for a conversation like this.
I would vote age. The younger the better.
Well, we're gonna have to fix that somehow.
So when this whole the spice bust happened a couple of years ago, did you feel like, I mean, how bad did you feel that, and did you feel like it was gonna get worse or better, or like things were gonna progress down a bad hill or anything like that?
There's this terrible thing we have in this country. It's called greed. Okay, the spice industry. There was so much money rolling at that time. I mean, I would look at a pipe and go, 15 grand, okay, I'll take it. Without even thinking twice. That's how much money was rolling through. The people who were producing the spice were told to stop numerous times. Okay? It was a matter of, at some point, everyone's gone down. And again, the feds came, well, actually they used local, but it was a federal thing. They came into the stores and said, today's Amnesty Day, give us your product. And I said, let me call my lawyer. And my lawyer said, do whatever they ask you to do. Okay? They want your product, give it to them. And
you got to think too. Back then, there was no social media. There was none. You know, it wasn't like, you know, if something like this happened today, all of a sudden your social media would just blow up. You'd hear it from a trillion different people, and it wasn't like that. It was very different.
Yeah.
But all right, so we got to keep things moving. But I want to thank Ham, my last guest here, and of course the great Grateful Jay.
Huge round of applause for these guys. Thanks for coming out, Jay and Ham. Welcoming to the stage our next guest, the man of mystery, Matty White.
Matty White, baby. Your microphone's there.
All right.
All right, everybody. Matty White. This guy's done all sorts of stuff, and he's quite a character. I love this guy. So, all right, let's go to the beginning. How did you start making pipes? How'd you get into this whole thing? You've been in it forever.
I hitchhiked out to Cali in the 90s and went up to Eugene, bought a couple cases of glass off of Bob and Hugh, and they're like...
Is Bob Snodgrass you're talking about?
Yeah, Bob Snodgrass and Hugh Salkine. And
props to Bob and Hugh.
This is in like 91, 92 region, and then I met Jason Harris and Chris Shave and bought a couple cases of glass off them, hung out with Cameron. I'm like loving it. I was at a 93 Dead Tour show in Oakland, and Bob blew me a little top hat in the bathroom with the little fan going on.
Oh, nice.
And I walked outside and blew on it. People are like, "Oh, is that a Bob?" I'm like, "Heck yeah!" And they tried to buy it off me, and I said no.
Sick.
But I smoked them out, and then that's when everybody had a pipe pouch on their side, and that was like status quo. You had to have a piece of glass. People would be like, "Oh, that dude's got glass. Let's circle up."
Before the pending game got big.
Yeah, you know. And
Okay.
and I was making pole bowls at home for JBD at the time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
Okay.
I had.
So were you there? Were you were you on that same?
Oh yeah, I lived
street,
at
like
Chris
you're
Shave's
here?
house outside of Cresswell, and I was making. I had a shop on his property making pole bowls for him and for his competitor, which is kind of odd.
Yeah.
But they were still homies, although it was like Coke and Pepsi or whatever.
Yeah. It's so interesting to hear this stuff too, because for me, I was blowing glass in Vermont. It was just me, a couple people in my shop. We were so sequestered and secluded. We never talked to anybody about anything. And your guys' experience in the Northwest was so different. You guys, it feels like you're all on the same street. You know?
Yeah, he was on the same street as JBD, and we were in Cresswell, and we had day and night shifts at the bong factories. It was like he high-fived the people that worked the night shift. They're like, "Oh, you're going out to the concert? I wish I could go," you know. And
I love it.
we used to fly out different famous glass blowers to teach classes at the bong factories, like Mickelson, Perrymore, all those kind of people. And JBD people would come over to the Jaw factory, or we'd go over to the JBD factory and watch whatever famous artist came to town. That's how we got all our tricks.
I'm so envious. What a cool whole atmosphere, the whole
Pipe
thing.
Dreams was nuts. I mean,
Yeah, so tell me about that day. So tell me about the day. Tell me about
so it's kind
224.
of like how it was like, "Oh my God, they're coming for us," and they were coming for us, and we were like, what are we gonna do? So everybody called me to come to the couple different bong shops. So we rolled up, and people weren't throwing product in my truck. They were throwing computers, any way to connect me to you. Like people were like, take the computers, take the filing cabinets, get in the woods, pour all the paperwork and whatever out and burn it.
Holy shit.
Burn
did
it
you
or
actually do
bury
that?
it. So that's what I took 2 truckloads of informational stuff and made sure they couldn't connect the dots.
That's fucking awesome. So you actually burned it in a giant pile.
Yeah, I'm not like out in the woods burning trash on a regular. I recycle. I love our earth, but I burn that motherfucking shit.
Guys, when in doubt, just burn it all. Okay, and so did you stop making pipes, or did you just right back in it?
No, like you said, we went to the next show at the Stardust, and I literally thought, it was the first time I actually had an art booth, and they put a line up, and there was art booths on one side, and only pipes on another side to kind of promote, oh, we have art too. And Mr. Miyagi was there. He bought a lamp off of Jedi, Teddy. We had some famous people come through that show, which was pretty cool. But we literally thought at any point they were going to lock the door, line us all up, and pretty much put a table up and arrest each and every one of us. That's what it felt like.
So
crazy.
was there anybody around that was helping to guide you guys through this process? Was there anybody giving you guys advice on anything, or was it just like winging it every day?
No, and cell phones weren't big back then either, so it was like, people are running around scatterbrained, you're getting bits and pieces of the story. We knew all the cops were up at the top. It was on our local news. And there was big rider trucks and SWAT cops and, everybody just raiding these guys, and everybody was trying to contact everybody, but nobody knew what to do.
So even being a tight-knit community, for you two in particular, how long did it take for the story to be clear and it to be fact versus speculation and the telephone game where things are getting way distorted.
At first, it was like, when the shit go down, you better be ready. We were like,
Talk at the CPA. With that, all the lawyers and shit.
oh, yeah,
Right after.
yeah. Yeah,
Tell us about that, because I don't think anybody really knows about that event. Tell us about that CTA.
Well, CTA was like the predecessor to Champs. It was
What does CTA stand for?
Contemporary Tobacco Accessories.
All right.
And yeah, so there was a CTA show 2 or 3 weeks after Pipe Dreams went down. And
In what state? Where was that held in?
it was in Vegas. And so everybody was scared to go. So we arrived there, and it is an empty venue. There was probably less than a dozen people in a room with,
Holy shit.
100 booths or something like that. It was empty. It was empty. Yeah, we spread our booth out to 4 booths because there was just all these vacant tables, and there was no buyers. So it was really just a dozen of us walking around talking about how scary this whole thing was. And like Matty was saying, like expecting at any moment that the feds were going to come in and we were all going to prison, But at that show, I guess the show coordinators had arranged for a group of weed-friendly lawyers and stuff to try to put the pieces together. And there was a talk that everybody being a couple dozen people, everybody attending the show went to this talk, and at that point, we still didn't really know, what had gone down. So, these legal experts, they were like, it's scary, don't get too scared, mind your P's and Q's, we'll figure out more later. Yeah, basically hide everything. Hide everything.
Yeah, there was one lawyer back then who kind of was like the head lawyer. His name was Robert Vaughn.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody kept turning to him for answers constantly, and every answer he gave you was not what you wanted to hear. You can't do it. That was his answer over and over in different words.
Yeah, it was scary times, but after that show and a little bit of talk, at least we knew there were answers, even if we didn't have them yet. And so it was enough to go back to work and just keep your head down,
We almost had to go to Vegas to convene in a safe location to find out what the hell really went on. It was like rats in a tree falling in the woods, and we all scatterbrained out and then met up in a different field.
Totally. And was that the last CTA show?
I can't really say. I don't know. I drove my bus to another.
I don't even remember the
show
CTA. I
after
feel like that must have buried that show right after that. No one showed up.
Yeah, it was.
I can't recall what was the last one, but CTA just changed it to change.
Yeah, just converged.
Right.
Just changed names.
Right.
So did you guys take any tactics, like Jay was saying, he turned his pieces into hookahs? Did you guys change your designs or strategies or anything like that
No
to
way.
kind of
We
keep
sold
it
what we
below, or-
sold because we were pipe makers and we believed in what we believed in. I mean, literally everybody that's up on this stage, Jay, Box Fan, you, everybody that's coming up here are like freedom fighters to get us to this point of where we've been at. We've all really stuck our necks out, Saeed, everybody, just to further the whole pipe industry and pushing, flowers and kindness and what we believe in. I mean,
Freedom fighters. Did you guys hear that? Freedom fighters. This is for real. This is for real because there is everybody who came in at the aftermath of that point in time. These guys are the ones who paid for all that with blood, sweat, and tears. And so thank you, everybody who showed up. We're not done yet, but thank you guys. And Saeed, crazy props to you, buddy.
Yes, Saeed.
Saeed.
And what are your greatest fears as a playmaker today?
cracking my piece or freaking people not buying it. I don't know.
Hey, that's the answer. That's the answer. Beautiful. We could have way worse fears. That's excellent.
Right.
Okay, so does anybody have questions for Matty White?
Come on up. Come on up.
So now that you guys have been through this, do you just live with the attitude, you know, if it happens again, or do you keep defense lawyer on retainer, or it's just like, you know, let's just see what happens, and live with the knowledge that, you know, they can do it again?
Yeah, you know, with the legalization, I mean, I live in Oregon, so things are getting easier day by day. But definitely, you know, with the whole rig craze and everybody, you know, concentrating, dabbing it up and partying and making it just a little even, you know, it's like waving that flag a little higher. It's definitely been a concern, knowing that, you know, at any point from here on out, it could all happen all over again, and it could put a big riff in our whole system all over again. I feel like the gates are been open, and it's like a dam that everybody's holding their fingers in, and there's too many holes in the dam, and it's finally blown up. And then with people accepting weed medically and realizing the benefits, you know, to people that are dying and easing pain and, you know, PTSD and all that, you know, at a certain point they have to realize that we're just the people making the shovels. You know, it's a gold rush, a green rush, and we're making really fancy shovels.
Beautiful. Good analogy. Anybody else? Any questions for Matty?
Huge round of applause.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you,
Matty White. Thank you.
Thank you, Ham. Thank you, Matty. There's a man in a place doing a thing that nobody has thought of to do before. He comes deep-rooted in the industry, and he's our closeout interview for the Tito Bern Show. Everyone welcome Marcel.
Marcel Braun, everybody.
Should've put my heart on the table, knowing I was good and able, but instead I fit your fables. If I could have you back, best believe it'd be forever. Cause each and every day you will hear those full letters.
What up, y'all? All right. Here we have Marcel Braun, everybody. Now, so just to get started like everybody else, tell us how you got started. How did you get into pipe making? How'd that go down?
Oh man, so I used to, I was with this guy, Ham. So I was this dude who knew a dude who wanted to like do some stuff with other dudes. So anyways, I was like going back and forth to Eugene, doing stuff with Ham, and we saw these guys blowing glass in this crazy, like, you know, at the end of a dirt road in town, like lawless country of Eugene. Yeah, it was like Red and Eric with an A and...
Yeah, we have that little coin. It is Eric with an A.
Right. The Four Corners shop, yeah, so the Four Corners shop down there, and I mean, it was like a real priceless piece of hippie, like, you know, we're talking like, this is like at the very core of what the culture is about, I feel like. And there were these guys blowing glass, and Clinton had built a trash can kiln for him. Like, Clinton was like the original pipe maker. He was making stone pipes, and these kids were trying to blow glass, and they were like, you know, tour kids. And so they needed someone who knew how to use like power tools and stuff, which was Clinton. And he like built them this trash can kiln that I think they ended up burning a shed down with it, but made a lot of pipes. And as a like you know, 17, 18-year-old, I got to see these guys blowing glass a little bit, and it was kind of like, what's that? Hey, don't look at that, come over here. You know, like really, it was, you know, and the first time I saw it was there, and that's when I'm in degenerate art, and it was like magic the first time I saw it. Like, dude was taking swizzle sticks and attaching them to handles, and I like watched it, and I'm like, so you made that thing with the color, and you bought that piece of clear, and they're stuck together, and it's like it's one thing now? And he's like, yeah, and just sort of...
Very simple way of saying it.
And my life had changed at that point. Like, at that moment, I was just like, Legos? You build Legos? And like, I had been a professional Lego toy person for my entire childhood career.
So it was Legos that started it all, I see.
Yeah, and I mean, here I was, and I had this moment where I was able to be like, I have the dream career, the perfect job for me is right here, you know, and then it's like, you know, the other thing I was into was like aerospace and engineering, cool things like that, and so like glass it's literally perfect for me, because I get to like really balance the output of like working with technical issues, because it's such a technical medium. And
right, that's sick.
So did you have any influence from your friends or family that were saying, do this, don't do this, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, my parents were definitely kind of like, you know, maybe you want to go to college and maybe blow glass on the side or something, and I'm like, must blow glass.
Yeah, fuck college. Now, for those of you who might not know, I mean, Marcel's got a lot going on. He's evolved his glass world quite a bit with Living Glassworks and now Project 33, and always something super exciting. How established were you when Pipe Dreams happened? Where along the lines were you on that? Did you have people in your shop? Where were you there?
You know, my model has always been a little bit different than like I'm gonna have a production company or people working for me making a lot of product that I'm gonna sell, because like, I'm not, like, me and money aren't really like the best combination, because I'm always like, but I can make art, I have money, I'll make some art with it.
Well, now he's actually invented money too, so we're solving that problem as well.
You know, but like, you know, it's always about like, so I've always been like kind of the independent artist, just like trying to figure it out and putting, you know, just putting the best piece together that I can each time. So with that approach, you're kind of just always under the radar, but you're also becoming known inside of the group of other people that are having that conversation as well. So, you know, when you know, to me, that's what being a headpiece maker is about, is being part of a conversation that's basically like, how can I make the best possible piece today and make it a little bit better and a little bit different than the one I made yesterday. And, you know, and you listen to the people that are like contributing to that conversation regularly, and that's kind of the progression. So at the stage, to answer your question of where I was at, I was, you know, I had engaged that conversation and was maybe 3 or 4 years into being like one of the people in the industry making stuff that was a little bit, you know, ambitious in pricing, you know, spending days and weeks instead of hours and minutes on pieces, and building equipment. So I had a design for a kiln. I had, when I first got into it, my first real port of genuine knowledge outside of the established, or the tiny part of the pipe making community I had access to, was to go to Brian Kirkley at Inspiration Farm. He had a bunch of equipment that he'd built, and he's really an awesome model of like what I built my career out of, because he's an independent artist with a farm and creates work and builds all his own equipment, and you know, it's pretty much like, when I look at my shop now, it's really a lot like his shop was when I came to him.
Well, I'll tell you what, you definitely did sequestered than anyone, and I knew who you were, so you did a good job getting out there, that's for sure. And so now, tell us about your February 24th. How did you find out? How close were you to all that mess and these guys, and how'd that go down?
You know, I was pretty well involved with Eugene Glass School at that time, and I also, you know, what I was getting around to saying is that I had this line of kilns that I was selling. So I was really in touch with the glass blowers. Again, back to that conversation of like, we're here trying to figure out the industry and make it happen. And so we were selling like maybe 10 kilns a month leading up to February 25th of that year. So it was like, really, the industry was like in a climbing phase like it is now.
Peaking.
Yeah, it was definitely peaking, for sure. The day that happened, to me it was like, I just knew that all of us small artists like myself were like a non-target. We just don't have the tax returns to justify the interest.
Yeah, so you didn't feel that same heat. And did you stop making pipes at all, or just kept going right through it?
I kept going. At that time I was probably making 2 pieces to 3 pieces a month, and a good portion of my income was coming from hustling kilns. You sell 10 kilns a month, and that's enough to pay your rent.
And I feel like for me too, this is when the argument of pipes are, at least most pipes are art. And that whole angle, I feel like that whole angle before pipe dreams was never really on the table, and I feel like that's when that conversation really started being had.
I think as we got recognized, because I feel like as we got recognized as artists and people were pushing out of the production kind of realm, and everybody's making that one-off piece and really trying to put themselves out there and trying to say, hey, notice me, and a couple pipes got in, art galleries, and, even at the gas conference, which didn't accept any pipes, there's a few pipes out, and it just got to the point where everybody's like, hey, look at me, I made this really cool pipe. And the people that were making a lot of pipes in production made those really pizzazz pipes, and was like, look at the pipes that we're selling, but look at the one main pipe we got. And then we were kind of putting ourselves on a front street, so to speak.
Yeah, that's excellent. And how did you, what were your emotions right after that? Was it, that day and the day after? Was it anger? Was it fear? What were you feeling?
I mean, just to get back to, reimagine the picture I was painting of where I started with glass blowing. So from that really low perspective, it's back to business as usual. I think that there was just kind of like, and then it really took a little longer to realize how much of an effect they were having on the industry and even people like myself, because, when the phone didn't ring for a week, I was like, wow, that's something. And then it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And, I can look back and see that I did not sell a kiln at all for 6 months after that, because so many people sold their equipment, and I was telling everyone to buy their equipment, don't sell your equipment. People were calling me like asking for advice and stuff, and and I was like basically like, don't sell your equipment, keep making pipes. They're probably not going to kick your door down.
And that's how I had questions earlier about especially selling headies. I had a really, really hard time right after that. So I mean, that's kind of what you found. It was kind of definitely tough, especially on those headies. Like store owners just afraid to invest in something that might be afraid it might get taken.
Yeah, store owners were definitely afraid to invest. But it was a standstill. I'm trying to think of how I got by during that time. It was
love and
pain.
Growing vegetables.
Did it feel different afterwards, and you're sitting there back making pipes maybe a couple weeks later? Did it feel different in your shop than it did before 224?
I mean, a little bit. Like, to me, it pretty much felt the same.
Well, let me ask you a different.
Waiting for the thing to start going.
Well, let me ask you a different question.
Let's go.
Let me ask you a different question. Especially being, 3 hours behind me, I just be curious about what a Marcel day looks like. How, maybe you could tell us kind of what.
Is this when we blew glass all the way to the next day, or are we talking about when we started?
If you can make such a thing as an average day, what does your average Marcel day look like? I'd love to know.
The average Marcel day today.
Not today. In your shop, you wake up super early. I know you do. I remember you telling me you do, a lot of your paperwork type stuff in the morning. Get that out of the way because you're 3 hours behind, so it must make it a little tricky to work with the East Coast. And then hit the shop. And did that routine change at all after 224?
Oh, yeah, the routine is always the same. You wake up, you figure out how to take over the world one step at a time, and you go.
Excellent. So we are getting down to the last couple minutes here. Does anybody have any questions for the great Marcel Braun?
I got a question here.
I was just going to ask him where I get a hat.
That was my question too.
Oh!
Well,
Let's give it up for the hat, people.
Yeah, for the hat.
it's infused with love. The crystals were placed by my daughter and my lady, and just beautiful. With the love and the glass, they're real glass crystals, so it's just like a.
Do you have a backup hat?
Maybe. There may be as many as 3.
And so also, do you think this could happen again? Pipe dreams.
I think that if you talk to any of the people who have been in the business, they will tell you that this is a 10-year cycle, and that
They did it
I
to
think
the
it's.
paper companies, they did it to the metal pipe people, and Jay knows all about it firsthand.
I think
He's on the front line of what we're talking about. Still.
Yes, say that out loud.
Florida's the roughest place to. I lived underneath the head shop in Daytona Beach, off a dead tour for like a year, and sold pipes and blue glass at Bike Week. And Florida is like the most liberal. It's like people are like ready to just jump on anybody like us. You walk around in Florida, and we stand out like a sore thumb
because we're having so much fun.
I mean, the bottom line is it's involuntary taxation based on the fact that they can. The resource is there for the plucking, so they do, and that's the reality of it. So, those people that reach a point in the industry where the fruit is ripe, so to speak, are, until the laws are 100% changed nationally, then it's always going to be something that could happen. Do I think that should stop us? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and look, let me also remind everybody too. This, it seems like it was a dark time. It was scary, but remember, everybody, this is how we got to where we are now. And fuck, dude, we're doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely like a lull, and then people came back strong.
So don't forget your outlaws, embrace it, and we'll all get through it together. And that's the end of it, dude. I want to thank everybody for coming to the Tito Bern Show. Raj Singh, my co-host, DJ Tricombe on the mic, and of course the great Shelbo as my announcer. Thank you, everybody. And enjoy the rest of the Glassroots Educational Project. There's some amazing classes coming up. Definitely don't miss them. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Tito. Huge round of applause for all of our guests and for Tito.